Now, here's the amazing thing about that, what you just saw. That's Todd Delaney. That's when he was actually in First Church a few months ago for a concert there. At least 3 or 4 of the sets that he did were on the spot. You listen to that, then you're thinking, well, I know that's probably one of his songs. No, on the spot. And it shows the mark of a true worshiper, whereby, you know, on the spot, the Holy Spirit just downloads information and he just starts to flow. There's another one that he sang. I have the audio for it. Maybe when I get up some time, I'll play. That one's actually my favorite. It is my favorite. And, you know, I really thank God for allowing him to bless us in Trinidad and Tobago. And, you know, we can continue to be a blessing to others. And I say that on the, you know, on the heels of, you know, some of the comments that have been made in reference to Dominica and the hurricane. And I'm very guarded in terms of not so much responding, but I choose my timing as to when and how. And I responded, and the post has somewhat gone viral. Maybe if I get some time, I'll read it. But the bottom line is this, and I think if anyone were to go to my page, I'm sure many would have seen it already. Number one, I make no apologies for saying it. Number two, if you don't like it, you can delete yourself if you don't like it, quite frankly. But people or have been so focused on the statement made by the Prime Minister surrounding, you know, the whole of, you know, Dominicans coming here to stay for 6 months. And again, just to make the point clear, he was making reference to friends and relatives, but there's the issue with the school. But what people are not realizing is that it has nothing to do with Dominica. Nothing. If we were to see beyond the surface of that statement, even or more so how people are responding, it has to do with God testing our heart to see how we think. That is what this is all about. And our heart, as I said in my post, you know, God looks at the heart, where the heart of many of us is bleeding. It's bleeding from the kind of things that we've been seeing. And if it is that we are not grateful in little, then we will not be blessed with much. And despite everything, Trinidad and Tobago has been blessed and has been spared so many times, but yet we continue to spew this venom of ungratefulness, even in what we have. So if we're not grateful in little, and even more so if we cannot give in little, then therefore we will not be given much. And there's so much more blessings that we can have if our heart will just turn. It has nothing to do with the Prime Minister, nothing to do with the opposition leader, nothing to do with those who sit in the Parliament chamber. It has to do with us as a people now. Let me tell you something. We're talking about, oh, the people in our country who need help and nobody help. How many of us will see our own neighbor right next door or down the street or down by the corner who's suffering and wouldn't help them? We will not help them at all. Wouldn't even say good morning. But you want to open up your mouth and talk about, oh, they ain't helping those, or people not helping the own in Trinidad, or the government or the opposition or whoever one doesn't poor, whoever, they're not helping those here when you have the power as well to help your brother in need. You're waiting for the government to do something when you could do something for your own neighbor. So at the end, they stop making this about the prime minister, about the opposition leader. It's about us as a people. If our heart ain't pure, if our heart ain't pure, if our heart ain't right, then nothing is going to go right. See beyond the statement that was made. God used that statement to test the heart of the people of Teen. Let me tell you something. Pray that our hurricane here come here after magnitude. Because then now we're going to be saying, who going to help us? Wait for God to help me. Wait for him to help. After you, let me tell you something, man, we're going to go to the wise up with this one. When you turn your back on people, you turn your back on God. It's real simple. You turn your back on people, you turn your back on God. All right? All right, let's go to our Let's Chat segment. All right, so what we're seeing here right now, these are just some of the images.
This used to be a
this
church,
is actually
the Baptist
a video.
church.
Let's get the audio up. This is actually some footage taken by someone in Dominica.
You can see
after the hurricane.
one wall, one piece of a wall remaining, and what looks like a ton load of lumber, trees that have been stripped of the outside part. And look at this. This is the other side of the home where the mechanic is alleged to have been living, on the downstairs portion. The upstairs portion where an older lady lives and is alive. Looks like it also took a beating. This road used to pass from this side to that side, and it's clearly washed away, and lots of fallen tree debris must have come down with a lot of water flow. Hi, this road takes you to where? So is that Wall House? Or that is Citonia? Fort Ney. Okay. That's the remaining evidence of the church. House after house. House after house. Roof after roof. There's a lady trapped in that house. Can you wave at her and see if she waves back? Is she gone back inside?
Yeah. You! Ayele! Yeah. A lady. She was waving us a while ago.
But we can't get to her because of that. Roof after roof.
I was staying inside there. When the river comes, it just don't know wrong. When I look, I see I said, but how come the water reach up way up there to reach up? I said, it's a miracle. Lord Jesus.
You were inside all the time?
Yes. We stay inside all the time.
You were alone?
So me and my sister.
She's there?
Mm-hmm.
She's okay?
Yes, one time when the water filled up the rooms, we went to the bathroom.
Yes.
And after she was tired, the top of the beds and them dry, so I put her to sit down, lie down.
This was a church here?
Yes. I can't believe. The river break from way up, so the river finish bank. Leave because of the river right there, the river. No wonder the thing dash on me. It's because of that.
This is the main road that leads from my joint after you leave my apartment and head down that road. You'd normally take a right here and head into town. Slight problem though. A ton load of rubble. Trees that wash down the river. I'm going to have to climb over that to get through. Look at all of the trees that came down with the river. Look at the mess. These wooden pieces are. This one in front of me is probably the size. It's larger than a coffin. Just to give you an idea of the size. Look at this.
It's ironic that he would use the comparison to a coffin or a casket. We had a little period of darkness just now, and I think it's interesting because I'm really saddened by how dark our hearts have become. And as I said during that period, how we respond to people is how we respond to God. And again, people keep making the argument, oh, we can't. Again, I want people to understand this. It has nothing to do with trying to figure out what we can or cannot do. Is our heart. If we can speak the way we've been speaking, then our heart itself needs a serious either transplant, either something going wrong, a shock, something. And I'm just warning all of us, and for those in particular who've been making these comments, understand. You might think you're doing Dr. Rowley something, or doing Mrs. Prasad Bissessa something, and this goes, you're doing yourself. You are bringing damnation upon yourself. I even have friends, colleagues who've been making some venomous statements. Be warned. You are bringing damnation on yourself. This is not about Dominica, it's about us as a people. And how we speak and the things we say. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Right now we are speaking death into Trinidad and Tobago, and not life. Not life. Because you know what? As we go to the break, I shouldn't be that surprised now. Because again, if it's too hard to say good morning to somebody right next door to you, then I shouldn't expect you to say anything nice about anybody else. For those who engage in that sort of foolishness. So carry on. Carry on. Carry on. God is that Trini? You go migrate just now. Let's take a break.
The devil's the accuser of the brethren. And he hates marriage because marriage is the image of God. He hates marriage because it's the most sacred institution on earth. God created marriage in Genesis chapter 1. It is the first institution he ever created, and it's the foundation for every other institution on earth. And he's a strategist. He understands if he can destroy marriage, he can destroy all of society.
I found out that if our phones are close enough, and if we have a connection on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, come on, I'm about to preach this technology until somebody comes out of hiding. If I got something on my device and you need it on your device, if I can get close enough to your device with my device, what's on my device can jump on your device. If I get close to the one who created me, close to the one who called me, if I stop running and return to the place of my assignment, I got the drop.
So if you want to live behind walls all your life and live an isolated, lonely, miserable life, go ahead. But I suggest that you tear down all your walls and let God be a wall of protection about you. And he says all of your walls will be called peace.
All right, so before we go to our Let's Chat segment, just want to say, we just showed you the video of, just some of what's happening in Dominica. And I really want to send a heartfelt thanks to all those who have contributed in one way or the other, whether it's by just bruising your knees and praying, and asking for God's intervention so that, people can send forth relief, because some may not be in a position to. But I believe, of course, anybody, whether you send one thing, that is helping. So please, do whatever you can as well, and give. For those who have been, assisting, let's get the video up. This is just a short clip of some people coming together to send supplies off to Dominica. Of course, right now, from what I understand, I got some word from ITNAC that they're looking at more, non-perishable food items, water, canned foods, tin foods, etc., toiletries, those kind of things. That's what they're looking for right now. Clothes, yes, but it's like not a priority. It's more personal items. I said toiletries, women of female products, in particular, products for children, milk, etc., diapers, pampers, and of course, food items, and as the case may be. So I want to thank everyone. We have some pictures coming up as well from the Coast Guard. They also have been sending off supplies. I love this sign. It has from Trinidad to Dominica with love. Love was meant to be contagious. That's the theme of this whole segment. Love was meant to be contagious. But it seems as though in this country, for many, hatred is contagious. So, we're not gonna deal with them. We're gonna stick to love. Love is contagious, right? And I mean, give. But they speak of faith without works is dead. At the end of the day, when we show who we are as children of God, we pray, yes, but we also show our faith by action unto God. So therefore, we give the same way God give. We give unto God to show that we are about our fellow man and our fellow man, of course, man. You know what it means, men and women, fellow man. And God is about relationship, not religion. So let us embrace each other, embrace our brothers and sisters in Dominica, and let's really help them rebuild. And I endorse again for the relatives and friends who you can, give shelter, please do so. And for those who want to continue with the nonsense, well, God bless you as well. Let's go to our Let's Chat segment now. All right, so B-Day is coming up, and they're going to get the ABCs of what's going to happen to our economy over the next year or so. Right, Budget Day coming up very soon. Everybody has been basically making their budget wish list. And the MSJ had a press conference yesterday where they addressed several issues. They touched on, the whole comments of some members of the public to the hurricane relief efforts for Dominica. But the main purpose of the press conference was to address the budget their budget wish list. But I liked how he linked the whole significance of Republic Day, which we celebrated, of course, over the weekend, but the holiday was yesterday, where he linked Republic Day in the context of our economy, citing that, if we look at the significance of that day, then therefore our economy should be in a better position if we truly, how should I say, keep the flame burning bright as to what that day means. But because of where we are now, that flame has reduced to just smoke. All right? So let's hear what the MSJ has to say by their leader, Mr. Abdullah, in this special presentation for Let's Chat. Let's go.
Party's General Secretary, and let me also share a very good morning to media colleagues who have come out here in numbers this morning for our media conference, and to say to Trinidad and Tobago, yesterday we celebrated the 41st anniversary of our Republican status. So to Trinidad and Tobago, we want to say, let us recognize this very important anniversary in our country's calendar. Now, our Republican status came about because of the passage of Act number 4 of 1976, which brought into being the Republican Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, which act actually is dated the 1st of August 1976. Very symbolic, 1st of August, of course, being Emancipation Day. And so our Republican Act was passed on the 1st of August 1976. And I have here the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, or one of the copies of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. And it's important for us as citizens to know what this Republican Constitution states, particularly in the preamble. Most times we focus on the office of the President, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, the Parliament, the Judiciary, Ombudsman, the Integrity Commission, and other creatures of the Constitution, institutional creatures of the Constitution. But today we want to focus on the preamble, because the preamble states what we as a people, as citizens collectively, are supposed to believe in together. And the preamble states, and I'm reading, whereas the people of Trinidad and Tobago have affirmed that the nation of Trinidad and Tobago is founded upon principles that acknowledge the supremacy of God, faith in fundamental human rights and freedoms, the position of the family in a society of free men and free institutions, the dignity of the human person, and the equal and inalienable rights with which all the members of the human family are endowed by their Creator. Respect the principles of social justice, and therefore believe that the operation of the economic system should result in the material resources of the community being so distributed as to subserve the common good, that there should be adequate means of livelihood for all, that labor should not be exploited or forced to work by economic necessity to operate in inhumane conditions, but that there should be opportunity for advancement on the basis of recognition of merit, ability, and integrity. Have asserted their belief in a democratic society in which all persons may, to the extent of their capacity, play some part in the institutions of the national life, and thus develop and maintain the due respect for lawfully constituted authority. Recognize that men and institutions remain free only when freedom is founded upon respect for moral and spiritual values and the rule of law. And lastly, desire that their constitution should enshrine the above-mentioned principles and beliefs and make provision for ensuring the protection in Trinidad and Tobago of fundamental human rights and freedoms. Now, that is what Republic Day is supposed to mean for all of us in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to say, however, very categorically, that Republic Day does not mean this for all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Firstly, those in control of our economic system, both the private sector and the state sector, do not operate that economic system in such a way that the material resources of the community subserve the common good. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Today, when one large private investor under the last government and continued under the present government got access to the whole Shagville area of Shagaramas, opposite the convention center, to create an amusement park, that water which is going to that water park now deprives the residents of Carnage from a regular supply of water. So the operation of the system is benefiting the 1% who own that facility, who will be making profits from that facility at the expense of other citizens getting water, which is, in our view, a basic human right. Although it's not enshrined in our Constitution, we believe that in the MSJ that water is a basic human right. I'll give you another example, that while some people continue to get, some companies continue to get billion-dollar contracts or multi-million-dollar contracts and so on, there are others in this country who are unable to put food on the table because they do not have an adequate means of livelihood. The Constitution, our preamble, says that the economic system should result in the material resources of the community being so distributed that there be adequate means of livelihood for all. Today in Trinidad and Tobago, we do not have adequate means of livelihood for all. And therefore, our Republican Constitution, what Republic Day is supposed to mean, is meaningless for tens of thousands of citizens who live below the poverty line or who are working poor and who are unable to make ends meet because they do not have adequate means of livelihood. We are well aware that there are workers who are forced by economic necessity to operate in inhumane conditions and are exploited. But our Constitution says that this should not happen. Labor workers are exploited in this country. There are people who are operating in inhumane conditions, and therefore the Constitution and our Republic Day is being violated. There are many other examples that I could give in relation to how the economic system is operating. It is very clear that opportunity for advancement is not on the basis of recognition of merit, ability, and integrity. We have had corruption in this country which results in opportunities for a few on the basis of party card, nepotism, favoritism, and political financiers who get unfair benefits from the system. And this holds whether it was UNC or PNM, it has held across the board from 1976 to the present time. There are people in this country in sea lots on the Beetham and in Laventille and in Morva and in Mount Dore and in Carenage, parts of Arima, parts of Point Fortin and South, parts of Central and so on, who cannot get a job because of where they live, because there is discrimination against them. I recently have visited 5 of our country's prisons on the invitation of Vision on Mission as part of an outreach program. And one of the cries of those who are inside is that when they come out, they're not given an opportunity to earn a living because they're discriminated against. We have discrimination on the basis of gender, on the basis of many other factors, and so on. And therefore, we do not have advancement on the basis of merit, ability, and integrity in this country. And therefore, our Republic Day has been devalued because the Constitution of this country is not being upheld by those in political power, past and present, and by those who control the economic system, the 1% of this country. Big foreign capital, who are part of that 1%, as well as large local capital, who are part of that 1% in our society. And others in our country who do not speak out against injustice are guilty of sins of omission, because they are both sins of commission and sins of omission. And those who feel themselves to be comfortable in this country and do not speak out against injustice, because our Constitution says that we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, respect the principles of social justice. But there are persons in this country who do not respect the principles of social justice and are prepared to keep quiet and so on in this regard. And so, in the view of the MSJ, that is why we say we need to change the system, change the economic system, change the relations of social and political power, reform our Constitution in terms of the institutions, so that the institutions can deliver upon the promise of the preamble. And we have to transform and reorganize the economy so that it can deliver the commitment made in our preamble to the Constitution. And that is what the idea of the Second Republic is all about, which is what the MSJ has articulated as a vision for this country. That is what we want to say with respect to the Republic Day, with one added point, and that is that the institutions of national life, our citizens play no role in the institutions of national life, which is what the Constitution says. In other words, we should have participatory democracy. Instead, what we have is a few people having power and the rest of the country feeling powerless, unable to deal with the problems in their own communities, at the workplace, and so on. And that is why we need radical, major reform of the Constitution in terms of the institutions of the Constitution, the way in which the Parliament works, the Cabinet works, the judiciary, and so on. All of those institutions need to be significantly reformed, and the MSJ, of course, has put forward proposals with respect to that. Let me now shift focus to the issue of the upcoming budget. In our view, the upcoming budget is going to see more measures along lines of austerity, which is going to put the burden of adjustment more and more on the ordinary people, working people, and the poor and the vulnerable in the society. That is where we believe the measures in large part will come. It is unlikely that we will see any significant announcements about diversification of the economy or fundamental transformation of the economy. We will be making a major statement on the budget afterwards, but it will not simply be a critique. It's very easy to critique the budget. What we need to have is an alternative vision for Trinidad and Tobago, an alternative vision for how the economy should be organized in this country, so that we can achieve what is in the Constitution, so that we can achieve an economic system that results in the material resources of the community being so distributed as to subserve the common good. And what I intend to do, because I was invited by the Oilfields Workers Trade Union to speak at the post-budget forum, which will be taking place on Tuesday, the 3rd of October. And at that post-budget forum on Tuesday, the 3rd of October, I will offer the MSJ's alternative budget, which is going to be the real opposition budget, not the one that will be delivered by Mrs. Prasad Bissessa in response to Mr. Imber. That is going to be merely party politicking at the level of Parliament as to who can share more blows. Neither of them are going to offer a vision, and neither of them can offer that, because they have both been responsible for this country and both have failed to deliver upon the transformation of the economy and of the country generally. And so on Tuesday, the 3rd of October, I will be offering an alternative budget, the alternative for Trinidad and Tobago. The last point I want to make on behalf of the MSJ is with respect to the issue of the terrible hurricanes that devastated the region over the last 2.5 to 3 weeks. We have seen devastation on a scale not witnessed before. Yes, Hurricane Ivan devastated Grenada, but didn't devastate many other islands other than Grenada. This time, in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, 2 Category 5 hurricanes have affected very, very many islands of the Caribbean. And what I want to say in that regard is that we have to be good citizens. Good citizens are persons who extend their hand in solidarity and in friendship to those who are in need. We all know the story about the biblical story of the Good Samaritan. It was the scribes and the Pharisees who passed by the man on the side of the road who had been beaten up and left wounded and hurt and so on and in need of care. And it was a very humble, poor person coming by who tended to that wounded person. And the parable was that it was this humble, poor person, not having a lot of means, who was the Good Samaritan, the person who truly helped a brother or a sister in need. And therefore, we may not have all the wealth that we had 5 years ago, but that is not the point. The point is that whatever we have to extend a hand in friendship and solidarity to those who are being beaten up. And in this case, our sisters and brothers in the Caribbean have been beaten up, not by bandits or thieves like the story in the Bible, but they have been beaten up and beaten down and devastated by Category 5 hurricanes. And the message is the same. We must extend our hand in friendship to them. Not only the easy way of emptying our closets of clothes that we no longer want to get rid of them, to send abroad. That's the easy thing to do. The harder thing is, in fact, to have people come into our homes and to provide shelter for them because they have no shelter of their own in Dominica. And we are extremely disgusted, nauseated even, by statements that are xenophobic and racist. We have to call it out. They're xenophobic and racist statements that we don't want people from Dominica to come here because we don't know who they are, they might be criminals, and they might do all kinds of things, and so on and so on and so on. Those are statements that are xenophobic. It is no different from President Trump and the white supremacy of the United States talking about immigrants coming from Mexico or from Latin American countries. Or the alt-right, the right-wing in Germany, that just got 13% of the vote in Germany, who say that they're anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant. It is the same root of xenophobia and racism and so on, and narrow nationalism. And the last country that should ever adopt narrow nationalism is Trinidad. Because Trinidad, I'm leaving out Tobago for the moment, because Trinidad is a country of immigrants. All of us could trace our roots back no further than 100 and odd years ago, 150 years perhaps, 200 years. That's as far back as any of us, except for the indigenous first people. They're the only ones who could trace their roots further back than that. So the 99% of this country could only go back a few generations. So we should be the most generous of all the people in the Caribbean. And we say that whenever narrow nationalism, xenophobia, and racism develops in a society, what you then get is hate, you get bigotry, and ultimately you get a type of political reaction that, if allowed to go unchallenged and unchecked, can lead to politics that is right-wing and that is very reactionary and neo-fascist. And so we have to say no to that from the very start. That's our statement this morning. A little longer than usual.
All right. You know, I'm really I'm pleased that most of our leaders have stood up against some of the comments being made in reference to the relief efforts in Dominica. And, you know, there are those who've been making statements with a sort of a sleight of tongue, saying, yeah, you know, we don't support, but nah, in between, they want to still make it about the government, and therefore then your true intentions come out. But I'll leave that there. In terms of the budget, we keep hearing it all the time. The MSJ has been really trying to plant their feet on the political platform, and it has been a challenge for them. But one of the statements that he made was true. The ping pong war between UNC and PNM has been going on for far too long, and I wait for the day to see when we can truly have the issues of the people really take forefront and not political interest. And I go back to what was discussed months ago with Mr. Robert Paris, the councillor for Pleasantville, and I stand by that. And people need to come out of this voting for party over policy, because many of us, if we ask what is in our party's manifesto, we don't know. So we really need to put country first. We say it all the time, but it's not happening. And it starts with us. All right? Budget day coming up in a few days. It's going to be very interesting. Let's take a break. All right, welcome back. This clip, let's go to a silver lining billboard. Let's go. Static. Anyway, I should have called this clip "Stop Complaining," but and I'm speaking to myself in saying this. Many times we could really complain. We could really complain. You ain't lying, right? But this clip this is the associate pastor of Lakewood. His name is Pastor John Gray. The man is hilarious. But he speaks. The entire sermon was called "After the Storm." But this clip, it speaks about praising through a storm. But I also want you to look at it from the perspective of stop complaining. And understand that when God sends you through a storm, it is to prepare you for legacy. And, in order to be a legend, you have to go through some things. And I don't people understand that. So look at this clip. He makes reference to Leah. Right? If people know that biblical story. If you don't, you're going to learn something today. And understand the importance of praising through a storm and understand the importance of legacy. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, that's cool. I just want to, I've been looking at, and this is the truth. When I look at some of the venomous statements and the things people say and all of that, I honestly feel a sense of hurt and, concern. Because most people who say venomous things is because they've been through some type of hurt or rejection or loss of some kind, and they just don't know how to do it. So the old saying, misery likes company. So it's easier to lash out at someone and to show hatred and contempt, because you just don't want to find yourselves in a vulnerable position where you'll get hurt again, whether it be from someone intimately or whether it be from the powers that be you felt that would have done you wrong or done, as the case may be. And there are a myriad of factors. But again, how you respond in the storm will determine the blessings of rain that could come your way. How you respond in the storm determines on what direction the sun is going to shine on you, or how much of the sun is going to shine on you. And how you respond in the storm will determine how much clean water you'll have to drink after the storm has passed. And I'm saying that to say, understand the blessings of the storm. Understand that a storm and I have it in my post as well. It does a couple things. One, it is meant to remove the debris, to clear a path that may have been blocked because of a lot of mess that's within us, right? So, you know, you need to look at it from that perspective, right? You need to look at that from that perspective. There are things that God wants to remove out of the way, and secondly, because he wants to replace it with stuff that needs to go in. So please don't see storms as a bad thing. Don't see what we're going through in TNT as a bad thing, but ask God, what am I to get out of this storm? And listen to his voice and hear what he has to say. All right? Have a blessed evening, a blessed day tomorrow. God's willing, the PSA men will be with us this week. Look out for that as their election's coming up soon as well. And be good to your brother and sister, all right? Take care of yourselves.